Tonight, the empty chamber seat.
We're going to fill the seat.
The Supreme Court showdown after the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Cool the flames that have been engulfing our country.
This with 44 days and counting until the 2020 election. And another storm charges toward the already ravaged Gulf Coast. Plus,
movement of Black Americans from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party is the biggest untold story of the 2020 election.
Two authors contend that black voters will be the deciding factor in a 2020 Trump victory. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
An epic battle brews in Washington over the fight to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jenna Browder.
Good evening. I'm John Jessup. Well, for nearly 30 years, Ginsburg, the second woman ever to serve on the High Court, played a pivotal role on social, political, and gender issues well beyond the bench.
And as a reliable liberal vote, Democrats say it's too close to the election to confirm her successor. Here now, CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. Ben, President Trump and Republicans say it is their constitutional duty to move forward with a nominee.
Yeah, Jenna, John, you're right. Today, President Trump said he expects to name his nominee Friday or Saturday after these services for Justice Ginsburg. And then hours later today, the Supreme Court Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said that nominee will, in fact, get a vote.
Now, already, some of the same individuals who tried every conceivable dirty trick to obstruct Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh are lining up to proclaim the third time will be the charm.
For hundreds of millions of Americans, this vacancy on the Supreme Court puts everything on the line.
Intense debates on the Senate floor over the race to confirm a new Supreme Court justice.
So I'm looking at 5, probably 4, but I'm looking at 5 very seriously. I'm going to make a decision on either Friday or Saturday. I will announce it either Friday or Saturday. And then the work begins.
Republican leader Mitch McConnell promised President Trump's nominee will receive a vote on the floor of the U.S. Senate. A 180 on timing from his position back in 2016. When he blocked President Obama's pick to succeed Justice Scalia.
Let's let the American people decide.
Critics calling GOP lawmakers hypocrites, although in 2016, Democrats were all for getting a justice confirmed in that election year.
We have our options. We have arrows in our quiver that I'm not about to discuss right now. But the fact is, we have a big challenge in our country.
4 Republicans would need to side with Democrats to block the confirmation. 2 have already made their choice, with Senators Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski saying whoever wins the election should pick the justice.
Please follow your conscience. Don't vote to confirm anyone nominated under the circumstances President Trump and Senator McConnell have created.
With 43 days until the election, Democrats say they plan to use every tool to delay the process, even possibly impeachment. John, Jenna?
All right, CBN's Ben Kennedy. Thanks, Ben. Well, joining us now is veteran journalist Ray Suarez. Ray, thanks for being here. As Ben just mentioned, Democrats said they will use all the tools in their tool shed. Ray, is impeachment one of the arrows in the Democrats' so-called quiver? And if so, on what grounds?
I think it's going to be much more talked about than it ever is going to actually come close to being used. Impeachment is, in a term used in Washington, the nuclear option. It's not close to being something that the House is going to do as a result of this pick. I would be, well, you'd have to pick me up off the floor if impeachment was actually tried. It's going to be speculated about. It's going to be talked about. It's going to be brandished as a weapon. It's not going to be voted on as an article of impeachment in the House of Representatives.
Yeah. Ray, do you think we will see someone pushed through and sworn in before the election?
I do. I think given the rules of the Senate, given the very limited tools that any minority has to throw sand in the gears, to slow down the operation of the system, it is very unlikely that the Democrats, short of winning enough Republican defections, which of course remains an open possibility, but short of that, there's very little the Democrats can do to stop the juggernaut moving toward the end of the year. Some people are speculating about Mark Kelly, if he wins in Arizona and is sworn as a senator before the new Congress comes to Washington on January 3rd, how that could change things. It's my suspicion this is already going to be over and done by November 30th, which is the deadline for Arizona affirming that vote.
Yeah. Well, let's say it's not. Let's say there is not a clear, there's not a nominee is not pushed through by the election. And on election night, say we still don't have a clear presidential winner, Joe Biden or Donald Trump. How would that complicate the entire matter?
Well, I'll take you back to November 8th, 2016, when we had an election between two fiercely opposed combatants, and we had 8 members of the Supreme Court, 4 presumed liberals and 4 presumed conservatives. The sky did not fall. The Statue of Liberty did not tumble into New York Harbor, and life went on. The same is going to happen. This will be, we have systems for adjudicating these questions. Bush v. Gore did not reach the courts until much, much later in the window. So, yes, it's a possibility that a deadlocked court would face this. But right now, without Ruth Bader Ginsburg's vote, it's really a 5-3 court, not a 4-4 court with 8 members.
And real quickly, we're short on time here, Ray. How much does this change the trajectory of the campaign? And I know that you disagree. You said that you thought the vote would happen before the election, but doesn't this help to kind of sustain Trump voters and keep them motivated?
Sure. I mean, it turns the heat up from 400 to broil. It was already going to be a contentious, difficult 6 coming weeks. Now all bets are off. It's going to be all-out war till November and through November.
All right.
Yeah, we thought it was interesting before her passing, and now here we are. Ray Suarez, thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Ray. Well, tonight, the next big move is up to President Trump and who he'll choose to fill the vacancy in the wake of Justice Ginsburg's death.
A CBN News senior Washington correspondent, Tara Merchiner, has more on the president's shortlist. Tara?
Facing one of his biggest decisions in office, President Trump says he has narrowed the Supreme Court list of nominees to 5 people, all women, with an announcement coming this Friday or Saturday. The first and most often mentioned name, Judge Amy Coney Barrett of the U.S. Court of Appeals 7th Circuit, a devout Catholic, favorite among religious conservatives, and considered by many to be the safest choice. Now, during her confirmation hearing to the federal bench in 2017, Democrats questioned whether her opposition to abortion would color her legal views.
The dogma lives loudly within you, and that's of concern.
It's never appropriate for a judge to impose that judge's personal convictions, whether they derive from faith or anywhere else on the law.
Also reportedly under consideration, Deputy White House counsel Kate Todd, Cuban-American Judge Barbara Lagoa, who could help the president with Latino voters, especially in Florida, and Judge Allison Jones Rushing of the U.S. Court of Appeals 4th Circuit, who is favored by many evangelicals. The president says he is looking for a good person who is brilliant, understands the law, and abides by the Constitution. John and Jenna.
All right, Tara, thank you very much. Well, if the nominee to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg turns out to be Amy Coney Barrett, why is she so popular among conservatives?
In addition to that question, we're also learning more about what Ginsburg was like behind the scenes. CBN's Paul Strand spoke with several players involved in judicial politics right here in Washington.
If Joe Biden wins, Democrats could try to blockade and stall the confirmation process of a Trump nominee till Biden's inaugurated.
Stalling was certainly their technique during the Kavanaugh confirmation process. I think it'll probably be their technique again. Last time it appeared to backfire.
I think that this is going to make the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing seem like a dust-up.
It'll certainly be contentious if the candidate is Amy Coney Barrett, who Democrats believe would be in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade. If she does get the nod, it's going to overjoy Americans United for Life. The pro-life groups asked Trump to name her, and not because why many might think.
She is a jurist who recognizes that her highest calling and duty is to the U.S. Constitution, is to the rule of law. Unlike many on the left, unlike many of the judicial activists that we see, she is not going to let her personal preferences bleed into her ruling.
And Democrats went after Barrett over her personal religious beliefs, trying to keep her off the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals 2 years ago.
Anybody who watched that confirmation hearing was well aware of the fact that she showed great grace under fire.
Foster points out, as a hardworking judge and mom of 7, Barrett exemplifies the kind of professional that equal rights champion Ginsburg fought so hard to protect and support.
In her early days as an advocate before joining the court, someone who has proven that it is possible to both raise a family and participate actively in the public square in civic life.
But expect an intense battle.
Just because it's a woman, that doesn't mean that Democrats are going to handle the person with kids' gloves.
Carrie Severino worked in the Supreme Court while Ginsburg was there and says she'd hate such bitter confirmation battles. During the combat over Kavanaugh,
she went on record saying, I don't like the way things are now.
Some contend American politics have never been this toxic. Severino believes both sides could learn from Ginsburg's genuine friendships with conservatives Antonin Scalia and Clarence Thomas.
It's a lesson and a reminder that we need to be able to disagree with people, even about issues that we hold very strongly, while still recognizing their common humanity and being able to treat them with love and respect.
She was a fierce fighter.
If Antonin Scalia was a lion in the law, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a lioness.
She believed, though, friendship with foes was a virtue.
I think that's one of the positive things about life tenure on the Supreme Court is everyone there knows you're going to be working with these same people for the rest of your lives. And so there's no point making enemies unnecessarily.
The president has said he'll pick a nominee this week. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Paul. And Catherine Glenn Foster joins us now. Catherine, you and Americans United for Life support Amy Coney Barrett. In your own words, why her above some of the other women we've mentioned?
We do. We have a solid list from the president, a short list of excellent nominees, but Judge Barrett is perhaps the best of those nominees for a number of reasons. She is the living embodiment of what Justice Ginsburg stood for, of what she fought for in her early days as an advocate in the courts. She is the perfect example of someone living both a fulfilling and enriched home life, family life, and also having a strong legal career at the 7th Circuit. Not only that, she has a sterling academic and legal record, and she has been through that nomination process before. She's gone through that gauntlet.
Catherine, Amy Coney Barrett is a devout Catholic, and her faith has come up many times, most notably with Senator Dianne Feinstein's dogma comment. Is there a religious test Amy Coney Barrett will have to pass this time around?
Absolutely not. In fact, that is not permitted to evaluate a nominee on the basis of religion. In fact, if you were to do that, then you would be looking at someone bringing in their personal preferences or their religious beliefs into the law, and we don't want that. We want a judge who recognizes that their highest calling and duty is to the U.S. Constitution, is to the rule of law, and that is exactly what Judge Barrett has committed to do time and time again, including during that very tough nomination process that we saw a couple of short years ago.
Barrett, she would be the 5th woman ever put on the high court. The second, of course, was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Catherine, talk a little bit about Justice Ginsburg legacy and just the legacy that she leaves behind.
Sure. She inspired generations of women. She paved the way for tens of thousands of lawyers who may not have been here had it not been for her pioneering work. So she does serve as an inspiration. Sadly, her legacy has been tarnished, has been sullied by her work, her anti-life jurisprudence, her work on the issue of abortion. And that is, it's really a tragedy to me that someone who spent her career standing for women's rights somehow got it wrong on this one pivotal issue, that idea that that women can succeed in a legal career, in society, in business, in the workforce, without having to deny who we are, who we intrinsically are, or give up having a wonderful, fulfilling family life as well.
Well, as John Malcolm just said, as Antonin Scalia was considered the lion of the Senate, she was perhaps not the Senate, but the Supreme Court, she was the lioness. Catherine Glenn Foster with Americans United for Life, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Coming up, it's only the second time in history. Why have scientists turned to the Greek alphabet to name the hurricane season's newest storms? We explain when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Well, people in the Gulf Coast can't seem to catch a break, John, as the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season refuses to slow down.
That's right, Jenna. Tropical storm Beta is heading for the Texas-Louisiana coastline. This as fires continue to consume the West. And as George Thomas reports, Southern California also had another surprise.
The water out here already over the road, so we're probably going to pack up and try to leave a little early.
On Highway 87 near Galveston, Texas, residents evacuating ahead of Tropical Storm Beta.
That little road over there has flooded just since we've been here.
John Marklin and Sonia Moore to the rescue, helping push this car after the owner got stuck in rising waters. Forecasters expecting Beta to bring flooding rainfall, storm surge, up to 60 miles per hour winds, and at least 15 inches of rain to parts of Texas and Louisiana through Wednesday.
We can expect surface flooding in all the usual spots.
In the low-lying areas of coastal Texas and Louisiana, folks still recovering from Hurricane Laura a few weeks ago, dealing with flooding streets again.
Starting to become monotonous because there's so much, you know, it's like every month or every other week we're having to deal with this stuff.
Meanwhile, this was the scene in the mountains of northeast Los Angeles last night, where the Bobcat fire that's been burning for 2 weeks doubled in size in the last 24 hours. The 103,000-acre blaze leaving portions of the San Gabriel Mountains blackened, forcing more residents to flee ahead of fast-moving fires that have already claimed 36 lives.
Embers just lit up, so I started seeing flames and it went down the hill really fast.
Residents urged to limit their outdoor exposure as firefighters on the ground battled the blaze to protect homes, while in the air, multiple planes dropped fire retardant. And check this out, a motorist capturing these dramatic images near the Big Pine Highway in Lago Vista as a smoke tornado crosses the road. Fire officials say it could be a month before they can contain the Bobcat fire. And as if the fires weren't enough to deal with, residents of Southern California got a jolt late Friday night after a 4.5 magnitude earthquake hit the city of El Monte, east of downtown LA. Thankfully, there were no serious injuries or damage. George Thomas, CBN News.
Thanks, George. Up next, the authors of a new book say black voters will determine November's election in Trump's favor.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. Well, black voter turnout dropped in 2016 for the first time in 20 years, but those who did go to the polls largely backed Hillary Clinton.
Two authors, one white, one black, believe there's a turnaround this time around and say Trump will be the beneficiary over Joe Biden. CBN's Eric Phillips spoke with them about it and their new book.
Vernon Robinson and Bruce Eberly point out that black Americans were at one time overwhelmingly Republican. Then came the presidency of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which led to a big shift because of what they call a charm offensive from Democrats. While it hasn't shifted back in almost 75 years, the authors expect 2020 to usher in a big swing.
This movement of black Americans from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party is the biggest untold story of the 2020 election.
Vernon Robinson and Bruce Eberly co-authored the book Coming Home: How Black Americans Will Re-elect Trump. They contend that blacks, a sought-after demographic long beholden to the Democrat Party, will make a switch.
I really think we're going to see 20 and 25% of the black vote be cast for Donald Trump.
They believe the Republican message is resonating, especially on issues like abortion.
The issue of life is important because it's a gateway issue for both black and Hispanic voters. We would not be in a minority status to Hispanics if 21 million black babies hadn't been killed.
They see the black church being a catalyst.
Because they have much more feel the same way about the issues that we do with conservatives than they certainly do with liberal Democrats like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
This despite Harris becoming the first black woman to be nominated as vice president for a major party.
I don't think this was a home run with the bases loaded or even a home run. I think it was probably a nice double to have her on the ticket. But I'm not convinced it's going to really change the way black voters will look at this election.
Those two individuals have put more black men in prison than possibly anybody else on the planet. That's why I refer to it as the mass incarceration ticket.
Bottom line, they say black voters are ready for the GOP to reach out.
When Republicans climb out from under their table hiding and go on the offense, then a significant number of black voters will support the Republican candidates, and it doesn't take that much.
You have to ask for the business. And this year, millions of dollars are going to be spent by the official Trump campaign by black Americans to reelect the president.
The men say the Republican Party has regained the moral high ground on issues like life, job creation, and wealth creation, all areas that could attract the black vote. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Thank you, Eric. Coming up, the new frontier of the U.S. Space Force is closer to home than you may think. Next.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
And finally tonight, the first new military service since the Air Force and 6th branch of the U.S. military deployed its first squadron outside of the U.S. this month.
The Space Force now has 20 airmen stationed at a base in Qatar on the Arabian Peninsula. The air base is home to the headquarters of the United States Central Command and the United States Air Force Central Command. 20 Air Force troops on the base entered the Space Force in a swearing-in ceremony, and more soldiers are expected to join the unit of core space operators who will maneuver satellites and try to avert conflicts in space.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.